Good afternoon. Um, We have a quorum. We have 4 members present, so I will call the meeting to order. It is, according to my watch, 4:31. So first up, let's see, approval of the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda? Okay. So just a quick comment on the agenda. Sit wherever you would like, Linda. Yeah. Just a couple quick comments on the agenda. We will now have a standing agenda item for town planners report, just to make that available each month. For, people, for either Linda or John to kind of inform us of anything they feel like they feel needs to be brought to our attention. I'm also going to try to get into the habit of having an other category somewhere on the agenda, just to be kind of a catch-all in case anything is missed. And that's an opportunity to add things. I will try to keep certain things relatively general, because there are certain topics we talk about kind of on a regular basis. And that kind of gives us the opportunity to leave them, leave that as a placeholder. Okay? Okay, so barring no comments, we will deem the agenda is approved and move on to the approval of the July 11th meeting minutes. Could I have a motion? Okay, so Bob is moving that the minutes be accepted as presented. Is there a second? Okay, well, I'll second. I was here. Yep. Celine, if you had your hand up, did you have your hand up? No, okay. So, is there any discussion, any corrections on the meeting minutes? Okay, so the minutes are approved. And I do want to compliment Lynn Wiesel once again for her minutes, which are just excellent and very complete. They go beyond the bare minimum, but I think they're very helpful in terms of reminding us all about the things we want to do and say we're going to do. So that's a good thing. All right. Town planners report. So Linda, is there anything that you want to bring from building and land use to our attention, or any comments you want to make?
Well, I do have a 2-page update that John left in his absence and wanted me to share.
Okay.
Just the plan of conservation and development, there's a special meeting on September 19th. We're hoping to have.
Excuse me, but could you get closer to the mic?
Can you hear me? Oh, okay.
Yes. Thank you.
The plan of conservation and development, there's a special meeting that is going to be held with the Town Plan and Zoning Commission for discussion purposes, and hopefully to finalize the final draft of the plan of conservation and development. That's the hope. Not sure if we're going to need another special meeting on that, but I know that the efforts of the commission, they will be meeting next week. We are hoping that by that late December, there will be a hopeful public hearing on this, as we need a 65-day statutory requirement to post this publicly prior to that. So it's all depending on, whether or not it will be finalized. The town center plan, the surveys went out to the residents, and there is a kickoff event on Tuesday, September 24th at 3:30. Park Avenue from 6 to 8 p.m. Let's see what else. There is an open space acquisition grant program from DEP that is in just preliminary discussion regarding possible sites and looking into the grant program itself. I know that one of the requirements is that the town has an updated or at least an approved plan of conservation and development. That's not more than that. So we're going to try to get there. New development for public hearing. We have the age-restricted housing on Blue Hills Avenue. That's going to go before the Town Plan and Zoning Commission, hopefully by the end of this month. It's the fourth Thursday of September. Can't remember that exact date. But again, it's the fourth Thursday of December. The, the 26th, thank you. The Inland and Wetlands Commission is going to meet on the 19th to review also the age-restricted development, which is 164 total apartment units on that site on Blue Hills Avenue. We also have another development for more housing at 391 Simsbury Road and Watkins Road. Recently, they were approved for a master plan in the PLR zoning district, 35 total dwelling units. See previous projects, Bloomfield Housing, the Bloomfield Avenue Phase 4 of the downtown, the Telus, the Jerome now, the Telus Bloom. That phase is almost completed and they're looking for final COs. I believe that the maximum capacity of, well, they're at 50% with their, I guess, capacity of rental. So that's moving forward. Still Road, PLR, that there was 140, 142 Still Road was looking for a zone change also for duplexes, 16 total. That was denied by the Town Plan and Zoning Commission on August 22nd. There has been no appeal filed yet. It's still within the appeal period. The Doncaster expansion development is still, there's a potential mediation in early October. So that has been appealed. And there is a meeting scheduled in early October for potential mediation. 132 Griffin North, 132 Griffin Road North. I think I'm saying that right. Or is it North Griffin Road? It's a DDZ zone. We have a potential developer that wants to present informally to the Town Plan and Zoning Commission regarding additional housing development there. Another housing development on a mixed-use building, preliminary stages is being proposed at 17 Mountain Avenue. It's a very complicated site because it's very small, but they're trying to fit 28-unit building, apartment, mixed use with retail on the ground floor. And it is in the floodplain, as well as just a lot of other just challenges on that site. So we're not sure if that's going to move forward, but they did present to the Design Review Board informally to get feedback on the design aspect of that. Preliminary meeting, let's see, 270 Woodland Avenue, potential site for a zone change and additional residential housing on that site as well. The total acreage of that site is 17 acres, and I believe the proposal was for affordable housing. 51 Gab Road is the old synagogue. We've had phone conversations with potential developers on that. Also looking for a zone change to the DDZ to increase the density, also to allow for housing development. We have 3 battery storage facilities being proposed in town, preliminary stages. They have not submitted to the Siting Council, but these are very large-scale battery storage facilities. I want to say the state of Connecticut has about, I believe it was about 16 approved sites. The battery storage facilities are about, let's say, one is about 30 megawatts total of the storage, the capacity of these storage facilities. They're proposing 3 that are all over 100 total megawatts. But we haven't heard anything, no new development on that. They have not submitted to siting council either, and they have not been back to the town. Let's see, we have the solar purchase power agreements that we're working on. The libraries, I guess part of their development agreement was to have solar panels. And so the town is now working, we're going to be working with the Green Bank on that. The Town Plan and Zoning Commission, we do have amendments that will be, the Town Plan and Zoning Commission will be working on regarding the cannabis use. There is a moratorium that expires November 1st. And so they will be discussing this further and have, I guess, some language to work on at the special meeting. New business, we have a couple of new businesses in town that are looking to open soon. Ginza has a soft opening date of September 23rd. We have TJ Burritos, who's also looking to hopefully open in the next couple of months. We have Popeyes, who has been given their building permits, but have not, there's no groundbreaking yet at this point. We have not heard back from Popeyes for maybe over a month now. So we're not sure what the status is on that development. And Philly Park is on schedule. We're hoping for the completion of October 25th. The library construction is also on schedule. The Tungus Avenue Firehouse has a slight delay due to supply chain issues, but they're close to completing that development. The Building and Land Use Department updates, we hired a zoning enforcement officer to start September 16th with a focus of blight enforcement. The building division is now fully staffed. They also hired 2 new members with the building division. In August, the building department received 189 total permits with a permit value of $111,836 and a building value of $8.3 million. Those are all the updates that I have.
So I have 2 questions.
Yep.
What was the open space comment? Something you mentioned.
Open Space
spaces?
Acquisition Grant Program is a grant program through the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. It's something that I guess we're looking into. I'm not sure we're in stages, but I know John is more involved in that. And Paula might know a little bit. I'm not.
Yeah, I know we've acquired, I mean, that's how we got La Salette. That's how we got La Salette. I think we also got, I think those funds were used for Farmington River Park. I know the Land Conservancy, you got open space grant funding for the Evans parcel. So we've availed ourselves of it in the past. I think there's a new round of grants.
There is, which is
Right.
due in January.
Yeah,
So
What are the options for? Where is the space?
well, we're not quite, we're looking into it. We're currently now going to assess what areas or what spaces are available.
right. That's the $1 million question.
Yes.
Are spaces available?
No, we're looking into it. We're not.
It's not like
Potential.
it's not like there's something, I don't think there's something that jumps into people's minds. If you have ideas, great. You know, because like the Land Conservancy always has kind of an ongoing list of properties. But a lot of those properties aren't, you know, they're properties you want to kind of keep an eye on, but it's not like there's a willing seller or they're not available and on the market. So if you have an idea, go for it.
There was a huge piece of land sold on Gale Road. Right. Doncaster piece is probably mostly wet. But that land on Gill Road goes down to Doncaster.
Right.
What the plans are for that, what the plans are for that, I have no idea. But that's, I would say, certainly something to look into.
Yeah, that transaction was in the paper and,
The numbers on it make no sense. They just don't.
right. It's the same price for each parcel. One parcel includes a large house, outbuildings. Right,
Yes.
Another version was it was one price for all three, so neither version of that
same
makes
price.
any sense. The second question I have is you mentioned something on Mountain Avenue.
Yep.
Where is that?
1517 Mountain, that's right across the plaza. That is where it's almost like a historic White House right in the front.
Right, and there is, if you drive back in, or is there some kind of complex, office complex
Yes.
back in there? Regency, yeah, yeah,
So they're not proposing to remove that,
Mountain Ave-
the structure in the front, which is the White House with, that one is, it has about 4 or 5 apartments in the front.
I don't know where that is then.
It's the building in the rear. The proposal is to demolish that building and rebuild it, or rebuild a multi-use apartment complex.
Mountain Ave.
Preliminary proposal.
do you have others, questions, David?
I just don't know where they're talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
No?
yeah,
Isaacs.
yeah.
Oh, you're saying that's not Loeffler Road?
That's
No,
Mountain
Mountain,
Avenue.
Mountain Avenue. Yeah, part,
Turns off,
Yeah.
Loeffler goes up to.
park crosses Tungus, then Mountain.
That's so,
Okay, got it, all right.
Got it, yeah. So I just want to observe that Jessica has joined us. Hi, Jessica. And, well, I'm just seeing, that
Oh, okay. He was taking.
Paula has just,
Beat me.
Paula has just observed that Jessica has joined us. Yeah, and so is Nancy. Do, other committee members have questions for Linda? Or anyone else online?
No, I
Okay.
just want to say thank you for the very comprehensive report. That was very detailed.
Yeah.
You've never had it before.
Actually, I think John went through it last month,
he's been
Yep.
kind of.
which is good.
presenting that, so.
Yeah, and let's see, I guess I just have one question. I appreciate the fact that you mentioned, I think it was 270 Wittenberry Avenue, which I'll have to think about.
Woodland Avenue.
Woodland Ave, okay, I'm just trying to,
The affordable housing.
yeah, it's more, that was the one project that you mentioned that that affordable housing seems to be the point. In terms of the other, any of the other projects that involve housing or mixed housing, is affordable housing a component of any of that?
The Blue Hills Avenue one with 164 unit has a 10% component.
Okay,
So
okay,
is that section 8?
Could be.
yeah,
You can build it with tax credits, I think, and just lower the market rate on some. You have to know.
yeah,
Hard to get new section 8 anyway, so.
yeah, there's a real backlog, I think, yeah. Okay. I agree, very comprehensive report, thank you very much. I will just make one, comment, about the battery storage sites. There is a site being proposed in Granby, Connecticut by, one of the companies that's proposing a site here. Except it's only like 4.99 megawatts. That's just like this little thing, which I find very interesting considering the ones being proposed here are all over 100.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Astronomical.
they're
It's
big,
big.
yeah. So it's just interesting. The one in Granby is close to, but a different project from Broadleaf Solar, which is the big solar facility that's being proposed. It used to be Monrovia, the big kind of nursery landscape area there. That has been purchased by a solar company and they're looking to put solar panels up there. So, I mean, that's going on in Granby and East Granby.
I
Yep.
I did miss something. I'm looking at my notes here. The HEMCAP for the governance committee last night made a favorable recommendation to town council for the approval
Oh, good.
of that. So
Excellent.
it is going to be going, hopefully, we want to put it on the
To
town
council, to
council's.
full council, right,
Yep.
right. And just for the committee, that was the,
Hazard mitigation.
yeah, thank you very
Hazard
much. Hazard mitigation, what?
Mitigation climate adaptation.
Thank you very much.
Or climate
HMCAP. Yeah, the committee provided a letter, just of support in terms of the town adopting that, so. All right, very good, thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions or comments, we'll move on. Okay, old business, there's a lot here. Some of it will be, I think, fairly quick. I just want to, again, keep things on as placeholders because we keep revisiting them from month to month. The possible revisions to the town solar siting policy, which was adopted in 2021. CEC had a discussion about that a couple months ago. I made some changes based on the committee's suggestions. The town attorney reviewed it and tweaked and kind of clarified. And so we have something that was approved by the attorney. I think, the question is, where does it go next? I had a discussion with Bonnie Berkowitz, who chairs the Economic Development Commission. And I think it would be helpful if that group, that commission, saw it so that they're aware they were the group that kind of generated the original conversation, I think, back in 2020. So I think they're interested in just maybe taking a look at it. I think the purpose is just to make sure it's a little bit broader to talk about things that could come along. Ultimately, the council would need to approve it, obviously. So, I leave it to you and John to,
Forward that.
yeah, to kind of push it through the appropriate channels. But the purpose, again, is to have a written policy in place expressing the town's desires when it comes to projects so that we have something, in place should we have siting council projects. So I just say all of that, knowing that we have 3 potential projects. And, that was the genesis of taking another look at it. So that was my only purpose of, putting it on the agenda and providing a copy of where we landed and what the town attorney approved over the course of the summer. Okay? Any questions, comments? Good. Let's see. So actually, that's also that's A and B. The project on Terriffill Road is one of those battery energy storage systems. So we're done with that. The Tree City USA application process, and we can talk about trees for Bloomfield a little bit more generally in terms of other updates. Just where we are at this point is the kinds of projects we're talking about doing as a town. It's what I reported on back in July. What Dan Carter and Dave Malesko are interested in doing is getting a stewardship plan done. And where we are in that is I think Dave is in the process of getting he's putting out an RFP and getting 3 bids. That was something that had been done for the Connecticut Urban Forest Council grant, which we did not get. That was one of the elements of that because that's something that the town has wanted for a while. So the idea is to get that done, and then we've identified, we have a plan, and we've identified where we might have gaps and where, you know, what things we need to do in what places on municipal property for our tree canopy. So we have that. There's also some other grant programs opening up in 2025 that would support right-of-way tree inventory work. And those grants are 50% matching grants. So the town would need to put up matching funds. So the idea is to use some of this money that we got from the council in this fiscal year budget as matching funds, and then to have some money available to do things like invasive plant management work in our, you know, La Salette Park, Farmington River Park, places like that, as well as planting some trees. That's the idea. Since we last met, I was copied on an email with good news about the Trees for Free project that Sharon Mann, who's a co-chair for Trees for Bloomfield, is spearheading. And there was a Garmany Fund grant of $10,000 awarded. Previously, Doncaster Foundation gave $3,000 to do another round of the tree planting for residents. That is really what I know, is that, you know, that was real good news, so that can move forward as well. And I'll ask Dave Hager, because I know he was involved with the grant writing committee and has been, you know, plugged in as well. Do you have any additional information, Dave?
So the information I have is that there are funds for planting about 50 trees that have been obtained. And there's what I was interested, going back to the where do we stand on the application for Tree City? I mean, did we have that done?
No, okay, so the application needs to be submitted at the end of the year, okay? So let me just answer your question. So we are in a good place, and now that kind of there's agreement on the town on how we want to proceed, I can share a document that kind of lays out the timeline because we've agreed on that.
Who has agreed?
Myself, Dan Carter, Dave Malesko, and Bart Ritson. Because those folks, not me, are the tree board technically in town right now. And they've been tasked by the council to come up with a plan. So this is, Bart, you would probably recognize, he is one of the assistant tree wardens. Okay? And then there's actually another gentleman in DPW who's another assistant tree warden.
Excuse me, but one of my impressions was that there needs to be a board working on, if we have a Tree City designation, there is a board that works
Correct.
and makes decisions.
Correct,
And
okay.
if we have $50,000, some decisions have been made, I guess, without a board.
That's not true.
But it just seems to me that sometimes that the right and left hands aren't talking together.
Okay.
And I'm just trying to understand.
Okay, I thought I had kind of relayed information. The requirements, according to the Arbor Day Foundation, is that your tree board can be town staff or an officially appointed tree board or commission by your council. That is not what we have with Trees for Bloomfield. We have a group of volunteers made up of members of 2 town-appointed committees. If we ultimately want to go in that direction, if the town wants to go in that direction, it can. But to get certified in year 1, which would be calendar year 2024, we can take what we have in place that qualifies, check the boxes, get ourselves certified. We're going to have to recertify next year. And then if we want to expand, if we want to have the council appoint a tree board, we can do all that. But there is more work to do. And, you know, the feeling, at least from my conversations with the directors, is that they like the notion of like taking what we have in place that satisfies the requirements, getting the certification, getting up and running. And the whole point of taking the approach we're taking is getting a sense, that's my phone, getting a sense of,
It just seems.
okay, Dave,
it just
let me
seems
finish,
to me,
please.
Paul,
David,
that-
David,
Go
please.
ahead. Go
Thank you.
ahead.
Let me finish. One of the things we need to do is we need to reconcile kind of the timing in terms of fiscal year budgets and calendar year certification. So this first year, we need to see kind of what the run rate in normal operating expenses in Parks and Rec and DPW is as far as operations and work that count for certification, that are eligible expenses. Once we have a run rate, that's going to position us in terms of what budgeting ask to make of the council to continue getting funding to support recertification each year. So this started out being a charge of the council to the directors and to CEC, quite frankly, to kind of figure out what we need to do to get certified and get up and running. So this whole idea of tree board has a specific meaning according to the Arbor Day Foundation. And that is kind of an officially appointed board or commission. Hartford has one, you know, and it's a whole different can of beans. So, you know, that's what's going on. We can do the basics this year, and then the town has more of an opportunity to think about, you know, what we might want to do differently if we want to do anything differently going forward. Sometimes simple is better. So, okay, go ahead.
It seems to me that there has been a wonderful program of planting trees in Bloomfield, and it has corralled and brought together town staff and volunteers, and it's been a rich experience for a great number of people, as well as for residents. And to go forward with an application and not embrace the cooperation that's already present and has been present is not a good thing. And it seems to me that if all of this, if the town council has appointed 4 members of the town staff to make decisions, and that doesn't include the people who have worked on this, we're losing something.
Okay, let me clarify. The town staff hasn't, quote, appointed those individuals. The town staff has tasked Mr. Carter in particular to be responsible for this. The directors, Mr. Carter and Mr. Malesko, are very, they embrace having the Trees for Bloomfield group serve and be advisory and be volunteers. This is kind of technically what you're putting into an application in terms of getting the certification. And I do want to make one other comment. You know, we've got a group that's done this, you know, great work starting in 2021. And it's developed this Trees for Free project, which is a fabulous project. And the group has done a great job in terms of securing funding for trees to plant on private property, okay? The beauty of getting Tree City USA designation and getting some dedicated funding from the council is to be able to do some, explicit work on municipal property. And they're not mutually exclusive. I guess that's the point I want to make.
I guess I'd like to table this discussion because it would go on for quite.
It would.
And,
yeah.
and we've got a lot to do, but there's a lot to talk about this. So I move that we table this discussion right now.
Were we trying to take any action?
No,
We don't need to.
no, I mean, that's fine. We can, move on to the next agenda item, but that's where the project is in terms of recertificate or getting certification. And it's, effectively the same update that we gave a couple months ago, but we're now trying to, get some numbers and make sure we've got what we need to do the application in December. So that's where we're at.
And is there another group that should be called together for this discussion?
I think that's a separate conversation, quite frankly. Okay. Okay. Yep.
Is it CEC business?
Yes.
What David wants.
This,
to
okay,
discuss, what David
we can have another conversation, but this is CEC business because Tree City USA designation is part of the energy plan. That's why it landed in CEC. Okay, it's under CEC. Okay. Okay, so let's move on. Dark Skies program. Let's see. Zleen, this is something we had talked about, getting some programming with Marjorie Winters.
Right. I did speak to her a couple of times. She's perfectly willing to do this, and it can be either on Zoom or as an in-person thing. We were talking about doing it in the fall. She was flexible on dates. She wanted to get a date from us, and I didn't provide her with one yet. And you, Paula, are saying now, well, actually, there is a Dark Skies program going to be presented, I believe, at the library shortly.
Okay.
Coming up, but not by her, by someone else.
Okay, so,
So you were talking about maybe postponing till March to see, she probably would be available, I don't know. And doing it then previous to the bird migration, which the Dark Skies affects. That's fine. I mean, I can approach her again and see if she wants to do that. I don't know. She seems to be pretty flexible with her time commitments.
yeah, I know that the Trap Rock Ridge Land Conservancy does a nature lecture series and typically wants to do that kind of programming as a Zoom program in January, February, March, kind of like in the winter months. So if CC wanted to also co-sponsor, with Trap Rock, that potentially could be kind of the first piece of some kind of program about birds, that interesting birds in our area. Woodcock, ducks, dick thistles.
If you see a dickcissel in Bloomfield, that's a very rare occurrence.
Yeah.
I think you've seen one, but it's very rare.
Yeah.
Woodcocks, I don't even know where you'd see them in Bloomfield. Mostly we go to the fields near Nod Brook to see the woodcocks, but
Right.
that's Simsbury.
Yeah, and I mean, the point with Trap Rock is Trap Rock Ridge Land Conservancy is a multi-town kind of thing. So, the Dark Skies program could be more of a, that's a general program anyway, in terms of migration.
Right.
But to the degree, if we're co-sponsoring with Trap Rock, then we can talk a little bit about an expanded footprint, if that's of interest. I haven't approached this with Trap Rock yet, but it just seems to me, two things. You just mentioned that there's another program that's been scheduled, which is good. You know, I think this is kind of peak migration right now, isn't it? September, October?
Yes, yes. Well, it depends on the bird, but
Right.
the shorebirds have already started. They left at the end of August, most of them. And it'll go on through November.
Right.
Some
I'm
of the,
just, yeah, I guess I'm just wondering in terms of like getting, getting advertising out, getting communication out, in terms of setting up a program, I'm just thinking we might have more lead time, if we, more time to plan and more time to kind of promote the program if we did it like in March.
March would probably be good, yeah.
Okay,
This is, okay.
But, I can talk to her and see if
yeah,
she's available in March and whatever date.
yeah.
And
Those programs of Trap Rock, if Trap Rock is willing, are usually the first Wednesday of the month, those nature lecture series. So, the first Wednesday in March is what I was thinking.
would it be afternoon or evening program?
Evening,
Okay,
yeah. Evening, and we've been doing it with Zoom. It's a popular Zoom program because the weather's kind of unpredictable in those winter months. And that's why, we usually get a pretty good crowd those first 3 months of the year.
okay.
So how do people feel about that? I'm not hearing any objections. People good with that? Okay.
I'm not objecting.
I'll speak to Marjorie and see what she has to say.
I think Nancy found the program, right?
Yeah, it's tomorrow,
It's tomorrow.
but it's not dark sky per se. It's night sky. And
Oh.
so it's about stargazing.
Constellations.
Yeah.
Ah,
And, but also they will have, and it's with Mystic Seaport.
okay.
And, but also they're talking about take-home packages from Dark Sky International next week that you can stop by and pick up, which are more about the issue of light pollution and the nighttime environment in general. So I think that's a different angle.
Yes, yes.
Birds migrating is part of that, but the health impact or the, whatever you want to call it, impact on humans is another piece. So I think should figure out what it is we want to do. And if Marjorie Winters, is she mostly the bird, she's migration?
No,
Oh,
no, Marjorie is including all of that
Okay.
in terms of how how light pollution affects us as
Okay.
humans, insects, birds,
Good.
animals, and so it's not just birds.
Okay, so we're not really duplicating exactly, I mean, they're gonna give some have information available for people from Dark Sky International, but the program they're doing tomorrow is about identifying stars and constellations.
Okay.
Still good.
Okay, so I think we're set on that. We have kind of what we'll do for next steps. And that's looking at the March date and catching spring migration. Okay,
It's fine. I'll talk to her.
great. Thank you, Zelene. Okay, moving on. Extreme heat, I kind of coupled that with the hazard mitigation climate action plan. It's a standing item on the agenda, a little less, it feels a little less urgent at the moment because it's fall and we've had cool days, but go ahead.
Right, the urgency kind of, and plus we missed it, but,
Yeah.
for me personally, it's not easy to work on things in the summer.
Yeah.
New projects, even though it did seem and is urgent for next year. So I think there's going to be another summer next year. So, my my question, and we had a little email exchange with people from Sustainable CT. And the most recent, I know there was a more recent email, which I want to ask you about in a minute, but the last one we had was the two people that were available to us were available through August. So we missed that. And I think they said there would be somebody else that we could work with. But my question is, who else from CEC wants to be on a work group to talk about what programming we want to do and maybe even what kinds of actions we may want to float out to the town of Bloomfield as far as adapting to extreme heat, preparing for extreme heat, knowing how to keep yourself safe and your neighbor safe and your family safe. Should we had some pretty sustained heat and humidity for a while. I didn't hear of a real crisis in town, but it could happen next year. So, I don't know. I'm wondering. I mean, I think we need to get back in touch with Sustainable CT. They did send some resources, which I did not look at because I had no spare time this summer. But it's actually a good winter project because then you're ready to go when spring comes. So I just was wondering who else wants to work on it before we dig into the resources they sent and see who's actually available still from Sustainable CT to help us.
Anyone interested in working on this topic with Nancy?
I can help out, Nancy. I can take on some of the work as well to keep it moving.
Okay.
I will do what I can in a supporting role as chair, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll start by, and I'll probably start in October. You know, I'm still busy, but we can start by sharing the link that they sent us with resources. And then finding out who we still have to talk to. Part of it is looking at the Sustainable CT plan, I guess, as we go along, although that's like a secondary thing to me, but well, it's fine.
I will jump to a moment. I'll jump to Sustainable CT just because we're talking about it and it's coming up on the agenda. So just an update on what happened, over the course of the summer. The two fellows, interns, that attended our CEC meeting, what happened in relatively short order was they got assigned to do some specific work with another town, I think down on the shoreline, because that other town on the shoreline was working to get certified in August. The deadlines for certification, the last deadline this year was in August, and the deadline next year is in April. So if we as a town are interested in getting recertified, then that's what we need to be planning toward. So I think the fellows interns, I think for the most part, that's a summertime gig. Because I think they're generally, students, college students, graduate students, that kind of thing. The thing they did do for us, and I will distribute that, the new people that we got did take a look at what we had done to get certified bronze back in 2019. And they populated a spreadsheet, which honestly, I haven't spent time on, and I felt like I needed to at least look at it before sending it out to everybody, and I will distribute it. It was really an attempt to say what kinds of things we had done as part of the 2019 certification that would still count to getting recertified. So it's helpful because it's a starting point. There's no identification of like how many points those things might count for, but at least we can get a sense of maybe which categories we have gaps in. I think this committee probably needs to spend more time after I distribute it, and we need to talk to Linda and John about kind of, you know, what their feelings are and what kind of staff support generally there is for doing the work, because it's a matter of compiling documents and kind of filling the paperwork, you know, filling the form out, and it's all online. So that's where we are. That being said, we have something which is better than what we had before, which was nothing. Go ahead, Nancy.
Didn't they, maybe we didn't take them up on it. I thought they also offered to look at all the things that we've been doing since then that might qualify, or is the time?
I sent them, I'm gonna say, I sent them what Kevin Goff and myself compiled a year and a half ago to give to Stephanie, the former environmental planner, as documentation for all the various things we worked on, trees for Bloomfield. I mean, I had emails and folders worth of stuff. I sent them all of those emails because I kept them all, fortunately. What was missing from that was things we had done since like spring of 2024, I think, or maybe even 2023. I mean, but it was a chunk of stuff since we'd done since 2019. I think they incorporated that into it, but we've done more, you know. So again, it's gonna take some work, but I really felt like I needed, I needed to at least look at it more than opening the spreadsheet before I
I just wanted.
sent it all to you without much of an explanation. Okay, so that's where we are. Certainly, your point about the resources link and looking at what they've got out there that's pertinent to extreme heat, I think, you know, for getting that going, that's the best path, I think. Anyone else have thoughts or comments on that?
Our new staff actually is also an environmental planner, so I just want to let you,
Ooh,
he's the zoning enforcement officer, but he has a specialty with that, so.
okay.
could be an
Actually,
exciting project.
that's new old business H.
Yeah.
Actually, is it in there? G? Yeah, environmental planner. So that's a positive development. That's a very positive development. Good. So,
So how much time?
Exactly. That is not yet, that has not been discussed, but I mean, you know, we are hoping, you know, with the budget, you know, process coming up in December and, you know, looking at what the
Yeah.
needs are for next year, it's a possibility.
so
So if,
It's a possibility that we can utilize staff for,
Right.
for things of this nature.
but for instance, if this deadline is April, if in fact we want to be certified, that is the first decision, I think. And from my perspective, the greatest benefit is the potential for grants. That's the greatest, and I don't know if you can get that support without being certified.
I think you
But if
can,
the
yeah.
deadline is April, and this person could help do that.
So, I
nice.
mean, what I'd like to propose, I'm sorry, David. What I'd like to propose is bringing, you know, in terms of the work that was provided by these two fellows, putting this again on the agenda for next month. I think I did send a copy of the spreadsheet, or you and John were copied on it, but you probably have lost it by now, in your email. But I will distribute it to the committee because I think we need to do an assessment of what we can feasibly do and if we can, you know, get this done. So I will put this on next month's agenda and we will dedicate some time to it. Okay. Is that good with everybody? Anyone online have any comments? Okay. I want to back up to P and Z regulation and incentives about promoting installation of renewable energy. path construction on commercial properties, and there was an attachment in your packet that pertained to this. So Lynn, can you screen share? So Bob, do you want to talk to this? Microphone, yeah. Make sure it's just close enough, yeah.
Really, I'm goofing up tonight. I guess the question is if legal for Bloomfield to have a regulation requiring that developments have solar on their roofs and or at least do an evaluation for putting solar on their roofs to show that it may not be cost effective. And I guess that question for planning department as to whether such a regulation would be legal or not.
I'd say we could just, if the intention is to just put it out there, we would have to ask for that opinion from our legal counsel, but I believe that, there could be wherever, when possible, or at least to the, I guess, where I'm getting this is depending on the project and where possible, or as much as possible to be as renewable or as sustainable or green. There are regulations that other towns use, that doesn't quite require you to do it, but they do want to see the greatest effort to have it.
Otherwise, that when
Yeah.
they submit their applications, that they
Right.
would say, we looked at it and we're going to do it, or it's not cost effective.
Yeah, we could look into it. I'm not,
Is there another town that's got some regulations that we could copy?
that are, I know Hartford they implemented a renewable type of energy into theirs and some sort of requirement, but there are, I wouldn't say waivers, there are, certain considerations. So we can look at what other towns are doing and then we'll share it with legal, but
Otherwise, it wouldn't be a hard and fast requirement, but it would
Right.
be an inducement for them to look at it.
more of an effort, yes.
That's all we can hope for.
I'll definitely have a discussion with John about that and
You want to talk about the path too? What your? the
Yeah,
second
yeah,
one?
okay. The second item,
Yeah.
yeah, there was one development that came up on Blue Hills Avenue that it was a redevelopment, you might say, and it added just a small number of square feet, at least compared to the original development. Okay, so you couldn't expect them to then put in a side path in front of their whole property. But I think we could take that opportunity to possibly, if we had a abatement policy that we could that would make it attractive for them to do it in a case of a partial redevelopment. I believe in that particular case.
Can you describe what a side path is?
Okay, otherwise it could be it
To
could
the
be a
mic.
sidewalk,
To the
or it
mic.
could be 8 foot or 10 foot multi-use path.
Along the road?
No, otherwise off the road. where you would traditionally see what we call a sidewalk.
Oh, sidewalk.
Otherwise, we've got something that everybody can use, whether it be a pedestrian or a bicyclist.
So would it be connected to other paths or, I
hopefully it would
don't
be
quite
all-
have the bigger picture here.
Well, have you familiar with Day Hill Road and the side path that they have on both sides there?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right, so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the TPZ passed, staff suggested suggested a revision, which you had originally suggested either here or in Trails Committee, about requiring for new development, the inclusion of basically, I think unless there are extenuating circumstances, inclusion of a path, multimodal, hopefully, preferably.
Right.
So what you're talking about, that pertained to new development.
And
So the hope would be, I think, to try to start getting this kind of connectivity that David is raising a point about, trying to, extend that to redevelopment of property. Is that the objective?
right.
Okay.
And it's, it's not fair to require them to put it in if they're only doing a very minor redevelopment. But is to have a policy if say they've got a 10,000 square feet, if they're going to add 6,000 square feet, it might be fair to have them put in a multimodal path in front of all their property. But if they're only putting in 1,000 square feet, it's not. But if we had come up with some formula to say you have to put in 25% of it or 50% of it under certain circumstances, and or have a tax abatement policy that would
Okay.
help them in cases where they're not doing very much, but they to encourage them to complete the route.
Right. So I think 2 and 3, well, actually 1, 2, and 3, 1 and 3 and 2 and 3 kind of go together. And I recall John Coleman talking about incentives, potential incentives to encourage developers to do certain things around renewable energy or complete streets progress. And I think the town now the council now has a policy about, what kinds of things are desirable in terms of more serious consideration about tax abatements. And so John had brought up that might be an incentive for certain types of projects to make it cost effective for them to do something. And I think certainly on a, maybe an abatement would be, an appropriate abatement would be the way to get somebody who's doing a redevelopment to doing a whole path, because it might be
Right, right.
cost effective. So that's the concept?
Right.
Okay.
And also, if say you've got, say we had 3/4 of Blue Hills Avenue with a side path on it, and you had one project that had a stream to cross or something like that, that was going to be very expensive.
Yep.
Okay, okay, if they looked at the standard cost of putting in side path and say, well, this is going to cost 5 times that. Okay, then an abatement would be appropriate to help them put in that very difficult section.
Okay.
It's a something that requires a lot of thought.
And Blue Hills is, a lot of the right of way there belongs to the state. I don't know how much we could require them from that portion.
Blue Hills?
Just thinking with his new development
Yeah,
special.
the state
Yeah.
the state has been receptive to putting in side paths and sidewalks, and even to the point where sometimes they would allow a narrowing of the shoulder in order to have enough room.
So, one thought is that particularly with the solar issue, and the side path actually sounds more complex to me, but tax abatements, these are just the right things to do. And that being the case, I personally am not in favor of any tax abatement. If it's the right thing to do, that's what needs to be done.
I guess I'm thinking a tax abatement would only be appropriate in a case where the redevelopment is say, only 10% of what the size of the project already is. And instead of having put 10% of a side path in of the property, they would put in the whole side path with a tax abatement. In other words, for a totally new project, the tax abatement would not be considered.
So, actually, can you stop screen sharing so we can see everyone? Thank you. Anyone online have any comments or?
I have a question.
Yep.
What is the difference between a side path and a sidewalk?
Well, well, multi-use side path is something that's 8 or 10 foot wide, has enough room for bicycles, pedestrians, even rollerblades or scooters, strollers, and so forth. So that it's wide enough for all users, where a sidewalk is traditionally 4 or 5 foot wide, and the 8 or 10 foot of bituminous usually doesn't cost any more than the 4 or 5 foot of concrete. Concrete's very expensive.
So if I can make a suggestion as to next steps. So I think this has kind of come up in a general way before, but thank you, Bob, for kind of putting something in writing. It seems like, given we're still looking at the POCD, and I will editorialize, I'm hoping that the committee will have a chance to see a draft of it at some point. It seems like there's a real, in looking at the POCD, it behooves the town to look at our complete streets policy and these other policies we have. And it's our best opportunity to kind of look at how we can marry this and kind of pull it together, and what's feasible in terms of trying to push the dial a little bit on getting some of it done. So I think this is just a good place to start, just to get some ideas out there. And can we leave it on as a standing agenda item, especially since the POCD is something that's going to be, I think, kind of in front of us as a community over the balance of the year. We need to be kind of making sure is that?
I just want to say that that regulation for sidewalk and the multi-use path was added in February of, so they are required now unless it's waived by the commission. So it's usually on street frontages too.
Right.
For this other newer development, going on Blue Hills, their street frontage is pretty narrow as the entrance is more narrow, but then the land in the back is, the bigger part. But what I was saying is that in sites like this is challenging because of, the state road, you would need some sort of all kinds of permits from the state. And
Right,
stuff.
of course.
So,
In South Windsor, where they have done this, the developer is putting it either wholly or partially in their frontage. So that
on their land is what.
on their land, exactly. And of course, I think of the present policy about it says or redevelopment, and I guess of course planning and zoning may already have thoughts on this, that when you have a partial redevelopment, how much do you require of the developer? And it might very well be in a percentage comparison to what the original development is.
Okay, so we'll leave it on and, again, thanks for kind of writing it down.
People can think about it. Come up
Right,
with
yep,
other modified proposals.
exactly. Okay, very good. Just in terms of new business, wanted to make the, do you want to say something?
But did you want to talk about environmental planner position?
I, no, not really. No, I do. You're making a face. The only reason I am thinking about moving on is there was a reference to this new staffing in the building and land use department, so I think that's where we take the conversation. Go ahead. If,
I'm not convinced.
okay,
'Cause I heard her say that, but I didn't hear them saying, and there'll be this many hours available. And so that's nice to have somebody with that background because it's helpful in the department. It'll reduce what has historically been some friction. But back to the environmental planner position, I still think that we should lobby, I guess, encourage. I guess it would still be the planning department to put in for a position when they do budget, a part-time position, if that's what we're going for, and to continue and maybe formalize the discussion with the town of Windsor about sharing the position. So that we can have a whole person who can look also holistically at the two towns and, and hopefully get some
Right.
economies of scale or just something out of working together.
Yeah, that could be especially beneficial in applying for grants because especially the federal government likes it when towns get together and do something together.
the, what I haven't heard definitively back on is on the Windsor side of things, whether somebody has spoken to the town manager.
Right, but I mean, can we move that along by,
It would be helpful if our counterparts in Windsor spoke to the town manager.
okay,
Okay, and we've talked about this a couple times. I know they've spoken to like elected council members, but at the end of the day, we need to make sure that the town managers in both towns really need to be on board with this. So that's kind of the
that's
missing
thing to do
piece.
next. Is to
Yes, is
have them,
just to
Yeah.
circle back. Thank you.
and then have the two town managers talk.
I think that would be very helpful getting into budgeting. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so, I think that was something we talked about and I think there's, yeah, it's just sort of making sure it's clear, like, yeah, talking to an elected official is one thing, but talking to the administration
Right.
of the town, yeah,
Okay.
okay? Cool. Okay, so just going into new business, recycling program changes. Some recent developments, we had a, bin out in the parking lot to recycle batteries. That's been pulled. And, we were notified that it was pulled so that Lynn had to update our recycling brochure flyer that's on CEC's webpage. Apparently the reason for it is that people are kind of abusing it and they were, dumping trash and all manner of stuff into it, which, I think we need to think about what alternatives are, but, I'm sympathetic to that because I know Kevin cleaned it out at the last shred day and you had to do a lot of sorting through. You had to do some sorting.
Also people together that they decided to recycle the batteries. They had plastic bags.
Right.
So
So-
take all these batteries out.
Right. So to repeat what Mr. Goff said, People were putting trash in the bin and then they were packaging their batteries in plastic, which, you know, you're not supposed to do. You're just supposed to put the batteries in. And that bin is outside in the first place because it used to be in the lobby of town hall, but then there's fire risk because they're batteries. Okay. So we heard that, and then we found out, very quickly in short order that, actually we heard that second, that the take back program for unused prescription drugs at the police station is being discontinued. Right. And apparently, again, people were depositing into that take back bin, receptacle, things that were inappropriate, and it was felt to be a safety issue for, the officers. So, the town, basically India's department, Lynn, I reached out to, the health district. The health district is working on coming up with some alternatives. They have something called deferral bags or deterra bags. They're coming up with some, other solutions for residents. They're supposed to have that all, kind of ironed out. I think this week is when we're supposed to hear the news. They're gonna kind of roll it out on the 17th next week, because there's a take back program with, I think, senior services. And, long story short, you know, I said that we could also try to get something in the messenger, about it, just to inform the public. And, Lynn and India's department will be, you know, putting information out to try to get the word out. But this is this is within the past 3 weeks. You know, it's very recent development. So, are there any questions, comments?
Well, I think something needs to be done because people have this stuff and it's probably going in the trash. And
Right,
there really needs to be a way, and possibly on recycle day, that you'd almost have to have a knowledgeable person standing there to screen the stuff that's being left.
I I asked a follow-up question of the police chief at the, Public Health, Safety and Environment Committee meeting, because I knew this was happening, but I hadn't gotten an explanation as to why these things were being discontinued. I knew about the batteries, but I didn't know what the take-back program at the police department was. And, I literally got a text on my way home from somebody who was watching on YouTube, who was glad I asked the question, but was expressing their concern because they are helping their elderly mother navigate things, and she's helping her mother dispose of unused prescription drugs. And so she's like, now what do I do? You know? So yeah, there's a need in the community. And so I think, to the health department's credit, they are trying to work on something, and we're gonna coordinate efforts to kind of roll things out. So that's what's going on.
Just wait for that.
Yeah. So stay tuned. As soon as I get information, I'll roll it out. Very, please, if you have feedback about what solutions are being proposed to help with the problem, so to get that back to me and I'll funnel it, I'll forward it on, but, I just wanted to alert, the committee to that update. Go ahead.
Pharmacies don't have a program where you go and drop them off.
I'm sorry?
Big Pharmacies, the local pharmacies. I don't know. Good talk.
They might, and that,
I thought they did.
and I think what the health department is doing, which will be very useful, and they probably have this information already, is, they're going to pull together in like one flyer, kind of all, as many alternatives as they can. And so they will provide that to us. We can post it on our webpage. The town can push it out. We can get it into the local paper. But yeah, I mean, I think there are options out there now that people aren't aware of. Yeah.
Well, a question is, what are the hospitals and nursing homes doing with the drugs that they're getting rid of? I guess I can ask that at Seabury.
Ask that at Seabury. Yeah, actually, yeah, ask. Yeah, seriously. That's a good idea. Yeah, it's a good question. Okay. Shred and recycling, small electronics recycling day. I just want to remind people that that's scheduled.
I think this is the wrong date.
Is it, okay, it's the first Saturday in November. So if the 4th is not it, then yes, please correct me. It's the 2nd. Thank you very much.
You said the first Saturday?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. So November 2nd. And next month I will be recruiting volunteers for the day. If you're available in the morning to help, that would be wonderful. Okay. Let's see, moving on to kind of announcements, updates. The other Trees for Bloomfield kind of event that's going on right now is the annual photo contest. The deadline for submissions is October 23rd. Actually, I think we're on a pace that's at least equal to last year. It's good. Lynn made some improvements to the registration process on the town website, and John Karas at the Messenger is running the ad for it on a regular basis. So I think that reminds people, and the entries have been, trickling in on a regular basis. So that's good. Just a reminder that 2 months ago, we agreed to co-sponsor this program, Peace Cycling for Climate Resilient Sanitation and Sustainable Agriculture, with the Bloomfield Public Library. And so looking forward to that. And the council members at the Public Health, Safety and Environment Committee were intrigued by it. They thought that was really interesting. So that's good.
So is this in person? Is this a webinar?
It's a webinar. It's a webinar. The company that approached, or I think it's a nonprofit that approached the public library, they're actually based out of Vermont. I think they're in Burlington. So they'll be presenting, and they're talking, they've been in Vermont kind of promoting this for like 15 years, I think. And what they're trying to do is now expand a little bit in terms of the program. Seabury composting tour. Bob said that the composter right now, they're tweaking it because it needs a little bit of work.
Yeah, well, the
Yeah.
stuff's kind of not being properly
Right.
turning into compost. And
Yeah.
so they're trying to figure out what they need to leave
Right,
out.
Right. Corn cobs for one, right? You
Right.
said corn cobs. Okay. So.
Time of year is probably overloaded.
Yeah. So, but that's an open invitation. So I just want to leave it on there. We may want to try to do a group visit to that facility. And this is just informational. The letter from the Newport Student Conservation Association, I included that. And hopefully you saw it. It was in your packets. And did we ever figure out Newport, what state? Yeah, it's like they've got a website, but I don't know Newport, Rhode Island, Newport, California, or I don't know which Newport it is. But yeah, Virginia, thank you. But it was nice. We got a very complimentary note, and they had found something in their, they found something in their research, and they were very enthusiastic about sharing giving us as a gift something to post on our town website. Something they thought was a very good, reference guide for residents. Go ahead.
Could we also put that out in the weekly letter, because electricity costs are a big issue right now?
Right. So that was nice. It was nice for somebody to reach out of the blue and tell us how much they appreciated looking at some of the resources on our website.
I can look up this information, but there's also an upcoming webinar with Marissa Gillette and 2 other people to, I think they said demystify or something, how the utility rates are, you know, what they're composed of. Because there's been so much politicizing of the recent increases that I think hearing directly from Marissa Gillette is worth the price of admission, which is 0 anyway, but I mean, just to hear from her, because I think people think Pura is doing nothing. Marissa Gillette is she's the chair, she's one of 3 people, and she's easily outvoted, but she's definitely working on the side of the consumer, and people do not know that. So,
Yeah, there have been efforts to oust her.
Yep.
Yeah, and the governor thus far has backed her, which
Mhm.
is a good thing. But yeah, so yeah, if you could share that,
I will.
that would be good. Yep. Okay, we're coming up on 6 o'clock. Anything else? And then I do want to have an opportunity for public comment if there's anybody on from the public who would like to make a comment or.
I'd have another comment that didn't fit in.
I do want to make a comment.
A minute. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Carmela.
Um, I agree with in terms of the environmental planner, that it would be better to have a full-time person. Secondly, I want to thank Lynn and whoever else for including the abbreviations in the last group of minutes. When I started working with the committee, I was totally lost. Whenever the recycling of medicine gets settled, I think it's important to have the information repeated several times in whatever, because people don't always read it or miss it. And I heard about that Newport student group, and I think they should be encouraged by us who are older, and just let them know we appreciate and that we support them. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmela. We did send back a thank you to them for, for their outreach, and we invited them to a CEC meeting, but I think depending on what state they're in,
Yeah.
we haven't heard back from them.
That's good. Thank you.
Yep. And anyone else online? And then I want to give Bob another opportunity. Anyone else online want to make a comment?
Probably California.
Yep.
Newport.
Okay, Bob.
I guess I'll ask Linda, do you happen to know there's a 93 acre piece of property across from Seabury? From what I understand, it's not classified as parkland. But anyway, the bottom line is that a solar company looked at that property thinking it was a private property and made a proposal for making a solar project out of it. And the bottom line was that they were going to pay $37,000 a year as a lease fee on this 93 acre solar project over 20 years. And I guess the question is, would the town want to consider, actually putting this piece of property out there for proposals to see what kind of income it could draw? Because one of the possibilities would be if that income could be directed towards trees for the whole community. But
You're saying this is a town-owned property? Or
it is definitely town-owned, but as I say, the developer didn't realize that at the time.
Backhoe, I think there's backhoe conservation
Is it, yeah,
I-
is there a conservation easement? I would have to,
Yeah, I don't,
we'd have to look at the conservation easement and see if there's any
Yeah.
restrictions. I don't know.
right.
I really don't know what restrictions.
I know
it have.
Seabury has 22 acres adjacent to it,
Okay.
but, and that's how the confusion came up. But anyway, just, you know, if this,
I'll look into it.
of course, if it didn't have restrictions, maybe we still wouldn't be interested. I don't know. Right now, it's, well, in fact, in the last week, it's gotten mowed by the town.
Oh, okay.
Okay, anything else? Okay, Mr. Goff. Actually, come up to a microphone, please.
I just had one question maybe for a follow-up next time, because we were talking about the dark skies and the bird migration and so forth. Did CEC ever get confirmation of what's being done at the public library now that it's going up in terms of bird-safe glass and how that's going to be dealt with?
The information I got was, through Mr. Coleman, and my understanding is that nothing is being done in terms of bird safe glass.
Yeah, yeah, I remember it came up and it was going to be very expensive to have this safe bird glass, and then it just got dropped.
I asked recently, I mean, recently as in within the past 5 months, 4 or 5 months, and I think the answer is no, nothing is being done.
That's a tragedy.
Yeah, so we should be able to follow through. Do you want to say something else?
Yeah, I just want to make a follow-up to that. Because I was here actually when I think the CEC talked to Mark Wiseman and the people doing the library, and they were, very open to hearing concerns. But it sort of goes a little bit to what David said about abatements for, quote, doing the right thing. I think some of these things have to be included in the budgets of projects, and they are not nice to haves or, optional. Now, the bird safe glass, the one thing with that, I think, I think, I can't remember if it was you, Paul, or someone else. There was an article not too long ago talking about there are new methodologies to actually change glass, or not glass itself, but things that can be done that may be a lot less expensive to do that. And Zelene, you may be more familiar with that than any of us are. But, I just, this is a continuing problem with projects in town where some of the things that should be done are put as options and will depend on the cost. And that's not how they should be characterized. I am happy to hear that we're finally going to put solar on the 330 Park, because again, that should not have been an option when that was built, especially in this day and age of leasing stuff. So that's an opinion.
Yeah, comment,
Okay, last one, go ahead.
Seabury, on the building that has the pool. I really don't know the history of it, but on one end, it's all glass, and they have put a lot of kind of shiny decals on it. And I've never seen a problem there. I've never seen that bird.
Right.
Can
Oh,
I
it must
speak
work.
to that? I would like to speak to the decals.
Go ahead.
Most of them don't work, okay? You have to put them very close together in order for them to work. So that is really not an option in most buildings. There are other things that you can use to place on the glass. There are newer options. But again, there is going to be, you will be able to see it from the inside when you're looking out. There's some that are almost transparent, but I think they reflect UV light, but you still will see a pattern on the glass. But those bird decals, let me tell you, because I've tried to use them, and unless you almost totally block out your window with them, you find dead birds. I know I did. So just as a point of information.
Yeah, these weren't the standard decal. This was something relatively new. I think so, what you're talking about with the newer type, some of the
Yeah,
newer type.
Violet,
yeah,
yeah.
they're like dots.
Ultraviolet, yeah. Okay, very good. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Can I have a second? Okay, so moved by Bob and seconded by Dave. 6:06. Okay, have a good evening, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.